Retro. I could talk about how I failed to train appropriately for the Barkley Fall Classic 2023.
I think bear crawling is my secret weapon.
What's that? Yeah, like 15 minutes? Vacuuming. Yeah, the game room. Yep, okay. Game room's immaculate. I don't need a vacuum in. Bear crawl! Yeah. What? Hello? Got no decent heels to train on? Yeah? Bear crawl! Okay, like right now? Bear crawl! Bear crawl! Okay. Bear crawl my butt out of this haunted room. That's what I'll do. I should have vacuumed. Head downstairs. Bear crawl! Okay. Bear crawl! Got no decent heels to train on? Bear crawl! Bear Contact! Crawl. You're gonna kill me with all these jump scares! Ghost of Barkley past? Got no time to run like 100 miles a week? Golly. Bear crawl 50 miles a week. Okay. Bear crawl!
Yeah.
Bear crawl!
Yeah.
With the trash can! What? With the trash can! Hey, I'm good. Just training. Are you good? See, disinvited voice, now you got me looking like a crazy person. Okay, I can finally say it. Months removed from the race because it's almost Christmas. And in the safety of the retro cave, surrounded by the things that I love and hopefully the things that love me back, I could talk about how I failed to train appropriately for the Barkley Fall Classic 2023. But before I get into that stuff, I wanted to take a moment to talk about how I got into ultra and where my training was the first time I lined up at the starting line of the Barkley Fall Classic, and where it was when I lined up on September 2023. So if you're willing to listen to it, I'm willing to tell it. So let's get started. So I don't know how the YouTube algorithm works. I just know that one day, after having looked up many ultra running videos specifically for Badwater 135, one day out of the blue, working out in the garage gym, the YouTube algorithm decided to show me a video about the Barkley Marathons. And up to this point, I'd been interested in running ultra for years, as a young adult, really, maybe even in my teen years. But it was always in the context of running Badwater 135, because 135 Badwater is always like the theme or the motto or catchphrase or whatever the title is, the toughest foot race on earth. And so for years, that was what I thought was the pinnacle of ultra, of running. And so I used to fantasize about getting in and running. You be running around the neighborhood, listen to Eye of the Tiger, thinking about running down there in Death Valley and doing something that's truly remarkable. YouTube's like, hey, well, if you're interested in that, here's another thing for you, called the Barkley Marathons. And I can't remember what the first video was, but I remember I quickly started watching as many videos about the Barkley Marathons as I could. I got the fever. I got the itch, right? And it became almost an obsession. And it quickly, probably that same day, replaced the fantasy, the dream of doing like the hardest foot race, because despite Badwater being called the toughest foot race on earth, I have no qualm about disagreeing. I disagree. I don't know if the Barkley Marathons is the toughest race on the planet, but it's got to be a contender. And the reason why I can say that and not feel bad, and hey, I'm not saying Badwater is easy. I ain't never done it. I ain't even ran 100 miles yet. Talk about that here in a second. But I'm just saying that more people finish Badwater in a year than have ever finished the Barkley Marathons. And I know there's a little, depending on the amount of people that run each year, and there are other demographics that categorize that you might use to determine if a race is more difficult than another race. But the metric I like to use is how many people can finish the race. Maybe that's not the best metric, but it's the one that makes most sense to me. Because in my mind, the fewer the people that can finish the race, the harder the race must be. Pretty hard. More people finish than don't finish. And more people finish each year than have ever finished the Barkley Marathons. So when I learned about the Barkley Marathons, it didn't take a lot for me to start viewing that as the more difficult race. And so now it's the thing that I'm fantasizing about when I'm running. And so it's on my mind. And we were getting ready so we're in North Carolina and we're getting ready to go to Okinawa, Japan. And so I'm on duty, doing my job, and I'm around the TV. And the TV, there's a promo about Okinawa. And in that promo, it starts talking about the demographics of Okinawa, how big the island is. And it turns out it ain't very big at all. And they say something like it's 80 miles length by 8 miles wide at its narrowest point. And so I'm thinking about the Barkley Marathons and Badwater and Ultra. Wow, I could run that. I could run the whole island. March 2023, I run from the southern cape of Okinawa to the northern cape of Okinawa, a total of approximately 83 miles based off the route I took along the western coast. So it wasn't an official race. It was something I just wanted to do. My wife helped support me with the Safety Vic, the family van, motivated MPV, raw, and got it done. Wanted to do it in 24 hours. So I wanted to run Okinawa in 24 hours or less. And I thought I could get it done, and I ended up doing it in sub 23 hours. Here's some footage from that race, my first ultra race, where I ran more than 26.2 miles. We feel just fine. We've only been running for like an hour. But yeah. Use good weather so far. Stay like this. Stay like this even at nighttime. Ooh, you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to do a gear check. Quick gear check. Legs, got them. Good to go. Good to go. Vlog number 2. We've journeyed almost 30 miles. Feels like 2. So easy. So easy. We were talking about how we wish it would rain. too much food and drink at our disposal, like vending machines everywhere. It's too easy. That's how you know a run is too easy. If you can play Pokemon Go and do the run, too easy. Cake. I mean, I still have my legs, so I'm still good to go. I still got legs, so I'm fine. Welcome to Jurassic Park. Okay, so I do the island run, right? It's successful. You know, I had a good time. Honestly, it was very challenging. Even running relatively flat, it's still 83 miles. You can run 83 miles slightly downhill the whole time, and it's not going to be fun. But it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't life-changing difficult. I definitely went to the pain cave, kept pushing forward, and evolved as a runner. I started looking for the next thing, and I legitimately thought I was a better runner than I was. You know, I got a chip on my shoulder. That's what I mean to say. I got a chip on my shoulder after completing this race. And, you know, again, Barkley Marathon's in the back of my mind, right? Like, I just did 83 miles. Barkley, what was it, 120? That's what they say it is? Well, I did 83. Can't be that much more difficult. Elevation is not even in my Brain Hauser group while I'm thinking about this, right? Elevation, like, well, whatever. It's just, okay. Okay, you run up some hills. Not that big a deal. That's how green I am at this point, right? That's how green I am in 2023. And so I signed up for a race near Quantico, where I'm going to be transition over to that summer. I signed up for a 50-mile race. I forget the name, but I'll put it on the screen for you. Right outside where I'm going to be living, so that was nice. And I figured 50 miles is a good distance to introduce myself to trail running. Because again, and I'm all screwed up, right? I have no idea what I'm doing. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, I did 83 miles, so 50 miles on the trails, yeah, that probably equals about the same, right? This is where I start really learning about the ultra community, where I start learning, right? And it's slow to come to me because self-professed rock, like I said in past videos, I got to do things multiple times before I got to learn the hard way. A lot of the trail races, there's no hand holding. There's no hand holding. And by that I mean, I'm used to, there's no expos. There's no convention centers. There's no race packets. There's no people lining the streets to cheer you on, like in the big marathons or even the medium marathons. A lot of times, stuff ain't even marked. The instructions to get to the race is like, here's the address. What more do you need? There's just no hand holding, right? As the race that I signed up for, this 50-miler, is getting closer and closer, I start worrying that like I don't have as much information about the race as I'm used to having when I'm running a street marathon. Because at this point I've ran several 6 or 7 marathons out in Nashville, and so I'm not unaccustomed to races. But for me not to have any kind of information about this trail race is starting to get my OODA loop over here. So we start getting closer to the date, and I start trying to find information about this race. So I go to the Ultra Trail Running website, thinking that maybe I missed something. Maybe there was an email that got sent out that I didn't get. Maybe there's something on the website that was posted, whatever the case may be, because I'm only like 5 or 6 weeks out. And so I'm on the Porcelain Throne, where I sign up for most of my races and do most of my deep thinking, trying to find information about this 50-mile race. The Barkley Demon finds me while on my throne. Somehow I just fall into finding the Barkley Fall Classic. At first I was like, wait, is this the Barkley Marathons? Like, you just see, it's a very unique name, with the guy who smokes a cigarette and the people who like slay their bodies to try to finish this race. I find out this ain't that. It's not that, because that's not posted on a website. So what am I looking at here? Is this somebody else trying to use the Barkley name for some other race, for some other 50K? And so I start reading on the website, and turns out that there's a miniature Barkley marathons, a micro, often described as baby Barkley, which I don't know why that gets on my nerves. I don't know if it's the alliteration that irritates me or what, but I don't like phrasing it that way, but there's a condensed version, smaller version for like more normal people to try to do. Barkley Marathon is called the Barkley Fall Classic, where you're going to run a 50K, run 12,000 feet of elevation-ish, right? That's another thing I quickly learned. Not only did Ultra not hold my hand, but the distances and elevation were big old fat ish. You're going to run 50 miles ish. You're going to run 30 miles ish, right? You might gain 12,000 feet of elevation. And so I'm like, well, I'm starting to get excited. Virginia, it's been years of every run I go on, at least one thought of the Barkley Marathons have been in my mind. It's just like my default fantasy that I go to when I'm running. I'm ecstatic. And then it says I can register for it, right? I don't know when it's going, so I register right then and there. I'm still doing my business. Nope. This is my race. Registered, right? This is where I yet again learn another lesson of Ultra. Sometimes you sign up for a race and you don't get into it. I'm not used to that. I'm used to just registering for a race. Here's my money. Here's some monetary amount. Please give me some pain, right? Simplest thing in the world. No. Sometimes in Ultra, you don't get into a race. So I learned I'm in the lottery. Might want to figure out when the Barkley Fall Classic's going, because I still have this 50-mile race. Like the Barkley Fall Classic that year took place the week before my 50-miler. So like a doofus, a big old fat ignoramus, I signed up for another Ultra it's Saturday to Saturday. That was 1 week apart. And I was like, all right, well, it's fine. I guess I'll just do both, right? Just if I don't like it, I'll go buy a straw, right? And suck it up. That my first, number one, official, actual, legitimate Ultra, an actual race, was the Barkley Fall Classic. Because if you're going to jump into ultra trail running, you know, why not just be ridiculous about it and make poor life choices and pick like the hardest one? Like, I mean, it makes sense if you don't think about it. Out of sheer belligerence and cockiness, I ended up messaging Mr. Steve Durbin. And I'm like, hey, sir, I ain't got in yet, but hey, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to have my dancing shoes. And sure would be great if I could run. If nobody else, if people don't show up, like, can I jump in? Because again, I don't realize that that's not usually a thing, right? I'm just like, well, if you got an empty spot and I'm there, why not? I'm here, you're here, let's do this thing. So I'm assuming that because I did that, it helped me get into the race, but I got in, all right? Which I know for anybody who's watching this video that's been trying to get in for years, that might be a little disheartening, but it's just dumb. It was just dumb luck, right? Just dumb luck that this doofus got in. I'm standing there at the starting line, the Barkley Fall Classic 2023, ready to just crush it, right? This is a training evolution for when I get into the Barkley Marathons. Easy. Light day. So matter of fact, somebody else could run it. You handle my light work. This is nothing, right? So I'm standing there, and I start off. I had to take off way too fast because, again, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. It's my first official trail race, right? I guess you could describe the course as you did 2 loops throughout Frozen Head. And, you know, it took several hours. Like, it wasn't quick loops. But by the time I got to the first key terrain feature, which was Chimney, I was 4 or 5 hours in. The School of Hard Knocks decided to start teaching me a lesson. So I'm getting ready to approach Chimney, and I passed this guy at the base of Chimney, if you will, and he said, "Don't let it break you." And I'm like, you know, he obviously doesn't know who he's talking to. 83 miles Okinawa. Chimney, if you don't know, is notorious for having, I don't know, I think an infinity amount of false summits, just like all of them. All the false summits on the planet reside on Chimney. And so it's Snake Way, bro. Snake Way. The yellow brick road. It's Sisyphus. Pushing that thing up. It just never ends, right? And it broke my spirit. It definitely did, right? So I'm hour 5 in, and it's just not ending. Just this thing that's standing between me and the next aid station is just not ending. I drank all my water. I had just filled up at the bottom of the chimney, and I was out and thirsty, and that had never happened to me before. I was like, well, that's it. The race is over, right? I must be last. Like, I just walked up this thing. I haven't seen anybody in like 15 years. I got to be last. The race is probably over. I don't have a watch, by the way. I have no watch. I have my phone, right? I took my phone because I want to listen to music. And then like, oh, don't worry about the GPS thing. You ain't gonna have service. It was so funny. I went down to take a photo. I had sit on the side of a rock while climbing chimney, by the way. And some guy was like, oh yeah, you use GPS, huh? And I was like, how? There's no service. How could you? If you can use GPS without service, I ain't figured that out, right? I'm like, I can't even make a call. I can't send a text. How would it? Don't worry about that, man. Couldn't even begin to use GPS. If I legitimately needed it, and I was truly lost, I would just be SOL because I wouldn't even know how to do it. You just can't use it. Not that I would. If you're gonna lose with integrity. Anyway, also had no salt, by the way, because why would you? Make my way up chimney, and I'm done. Put a fork in me. I'm done. I'm just trying. At this point, I'm trying to see how I can exfil, right? How I can abandon the race, right? What's the best way to get back to the truck? Got to the aid station, and it turns out the best at that year, chimney was about the middle of the race, and I would need to get to the prison in order to be done. That's the best way to be done, the quickest way to be done. So I'm climbing the fire tower, which is typical. You do chimney and then you walk up a fire tower where you get that. If you're really lucky, you get a spectacular view of the mountains. But it was raining and gray, so no view, right? So I've been, at this point, I don't know, it's 7 hours into the race, eight hours. Again, I have no watch, I have no salt, and I'm out of water. Luckily, I was at an aid station, so I'm all messed up, right? Freaking newbie over here, and I get up to the top of the fire tower, and I had made me a battle buddy. There's lots of times in ultra where you'll be running beside somebody, and you might try to pass them, they might try to pass you, then you guys eventually figure out that you're giving the same amount of effort, so your gravities pull you together, and you end up running together for a little bit before somebody sheds enough DNA where their gravity is less, and they pull away, right? So it's not uncommon for people to run together for a little bit, and then somebody just goes away. It just happens in ultra. Didn't know that then, I know that now. But I found me a battle buddy. We went up the fire tower and came back down, and as we were coming back down, she had said, well, are you ready to do rat jaw? Well, I mean, I'm here. Rat jaw is like the key terrain feature. It's the jewel on the crown that is the Barkley Fall Classic and the Barkley Marathons, I guess, or at least that's how I viewed it. So yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm going to finish, like, yeah, let's do it, right? However, that was when we was coming down the fire tower. Right before that, when we were going up the improved route, there's an improved trail where like vehicles could go up to get to the fire tower. I remember I was coming up to the fire tower. I was talking to her. There were two park rangers on the right side. As I'm coming to the trail, they're off to the right, guarding what looks to be someone or something had fallen off the side of this cliff, right? Because it's so steep, you can't, the decline, it was so steep. It just dropped off into like the abyss. And as I'm running, well, power hiking probably, past them, I remember thinking like, oh man, I hope nobody got hurt. Like somebody must have got too close to the side, slipped, or something slipped, and they're there to make sure people don't go down there, right? They're there to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But now I'm coming down the fire tower, and she's talking about, hey, you ready to do rat jaw? So, all right, let's do rat jaw. Then she approaches the spot I was just looking at, thinking that the guards were there to stop people from going down it. She goes in between them and goes down the cliff. And as I yell out to her, what the hell are you doing? She says, rat jaw. I said, this is rat jaw? And she said, yes, this is rat jaw. And I'm like, she can't be serious. Like legitimately, this can't be the thing this can't be the thing we're supposed to go down. Because I can't express to you enough, especially if it's the first time you've seen it. Pictures just do not do rat jaw, and a lot of the terrain features of the race justice. They just don't. Video, it's impossible to convey to you how steep these things look in real life, vice what you see in pictures. And I'm looking down this thing, and it truly shocked me. I was taken aback, right? Dumbfounded, bamboozled, run amok, right? Had no idea what I was looking at, other than like, surely no rational human would go down this thing. This is such austere terrain that you would find another way. That this can't be part of the race. And as I look down her as she's falling, because it's been raining, and now Rat Jaw is now a mudslide, and as she's falling on her butt, which I now and at this part of my life, I'm discovering that this is part of the Barkley Fall Classic. You're going to be doing the butt scooting, sliding, right, down some of the steeper parts. But I hadn't done any of those yet, right? And I'm watching her. I look down Rat Jaw, only to see that these tiny little ants that are people are, those are racers, and they are falling down this feature, Rat Jaw. And so I go after her. I don't want to be left alone. So I go after her. And I immediately regret a lot of life choices at this point. Twice as I'm going down Rat Jaw, I lose control. I slid because muddy, and because I'm slow, at least half of the field, if not more, had already went. So they mowed a path for us. The downside of that is, while there were a few briars, there was nothing to stop you from falling. So twice I had a uncontrolled slide where I couldn't stop myself. I just kept sliding until the grade either flattened out enough to where I stopped, or once, and this was super scary, once I had slid and then the trail where the people had went cut off to the side, but I kept going, and thankfully there was a briar bush that stopped me because as I am sliding down this thing, this is my move right here. Like I slide down, like right leg out, and then I go down like this. I got my right leg. This is my right leg. Go down like this. I'm sliding, but this time I'm sliding like this. Like I look like one of these, and I hit the briar bush, stand up. I'm on a rock, like a boulder, right? And I'm like, okay, that I'm supposed to go that way, but I don't see, because there's a lot of fog, right? I don't see ground here. And so I take a step forward and I look over, and I look down, and it's a 20 or 30 foot-ish drop. Like 3 feet away from me. I could have slid off and then had like a really bad rest of my life. I don't think it would have killed me, but again, I probably wouldn't have been the same. I'm never coming back here. I just want to go home, Mick. I just want to go home. Yeah, that was pretty scary. And then that was real funny. Getting down the last bit of Rat Jaw. I think the last portion is called Gunny Sack. I'm not clear. You think having done it twice, I'd figured it out by now. But there's just a cliff face of, I don't know, 15, 20 feet where you fall right near the end at the bottom of Rat Jaw. My battle buddy, she said she's of the opinion that meth lab, the feature of the race that's coming up after the prison, is harder than Rat Jaw. And if there was any fight left in my body, it evaporated with that statement. Because the thing behind me was insane. Truly. In every sense of the word. Insane. And she's talking about the thing coming up is worse than that? Nah, that's okay. All right, there go. There. No more fantasizing about the Barkley Marathons, because they got to do this, like 5 or 6 times? Yeah, that's okay. And then meth is worse than this? It's insane. I get it. The people who run these races are androids, cyborgs, or just loony people. Like just, crazy people. And since I'm not crazy or a cyborg, so I'll just never be able to do it. This ain't for me. I'll find some. There will be another dream. I'll look for another dream. She had said, because I was just like, nah, I'm never going to come back. This is done. She said, nah, you have to drive back home, right? You have to drive back to Virginia? I said, yeah. She said, nah, you won't make it halfway back to Virginia and you'll want to come back. You'll be trying to figure out when the registration is. I said, no, you were wrong. Not going to happen. I promise you that. And I was wrong. She was right. And as I was driving back to Virginia, I was 100% trying to figure out how to register again. I was like, I didn't lose the race. It beat me. Like, look, hey, a lot of people's like, well, you never really beaten as long as you learn from it. No, 2022 beat me, broke me mentally, got inside my OODA loop. I got beaten and I lost. All of it, all the bad things. I'm back at the start line again. And it's a very odd, surreal feeling because in some ways it felt like it had been forever. That it had been a long time coming. But mostly it felt like no time had passed at all. I can't explain it. I don't know if it's because it's something that just permeated most of my thoughts throughout the year. I mean, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think about the race. And there certainly wasn't ever a workout that went by that I didn't think about the race. And so I'm standing there at the starting line, and the feeling I got was maybe even a little melancholy because I'm standing there and it felt like I was just there yesterday. I know I'm not the same runner I was before. I was too green the year before. I didn't know what I was doing, but now I got, thousands of miles of training in, tens of thousands of feet of elevation gain, hours it just spent in misery, leg endurance, strength endurance. I'm a more evolved runner, and it felt like no time had passed at all for the most part. And I felt great. I had very rested legs. I definitely had the most rested legs I'd had throughout the year of training I had because, didn't believe in rest days in life unless life gave me a rest day. So I'm just day on, stay on. So to actually have a taper period where I had taken 2 weeks off, it made my legs feel great. Now, I was having issues with my left heel. I didn't know it at the time, but I now I know I had a heel spur, and that heel spur either was causing plantar fasciitis or they were working in conjunction with each other. But when I was wearing shoes and running, it was a non-factor. Really was. So as I'm standing there at the starting line, I'm feeling pretty good. Now the course was definitely more challenging this year than in 2022, in my opinion. From looking at it, there was a pretty key terrain feature that they doubled up on, but the weather was in my favor. So it was kind of a trade-off. I traded off a more challenging course for great weather. 0 rain in the forecast. That's what I'm talking about. Because my singular fear going into 2023 was I had to figure out how to solve how am I going to get down Rat Jaw and back up if it's a mudslide again, right? But it was going to be a hot run in the 90s, low 90s, which I trained for, right? I'm used to that. So while I'd prefer not to be that hot, it did not. I was pretty excited about that. And dry, hot and dry. Couldn't ask for better weather. A little bit of overcast. All in all, I think you couldn't ask for better weather than that. Definitely better than rain. You can keep your rain. I don't want the rain. I definitely don't want the rain going down Rat Jaw or going back up again. Forget it. My foot feels okay. I got great weather. My legs are as rested as they've ever been. And I start off on my redemption attempt in 2023. Now, here's the thing, and I firmly believe this. In any fight, it can go either way. While I felt confident, it's the Barkley Fall Classic. There is no assurances in this race. So while I felt confident, there was still, I still had that little bit of apprehension deep in my heart. But I got to tell you, this was my race. For the first 5 hours, which it doesn't mean anything, but when you're in it and you've just done the first 5 hours, it was my race to lose. I was running my race. I was ahead of my own time hacks, which was all my time hacks that I set for myself were already well ahead of the time hacks that the map had laid out for us. And yeah, I was crushing it, right? Just loving life. Chimney came pretty early in the course this year, as opposed to the year before. It was about in the medium of the course, or in the middle of the course. This year it was on the front end. And so, because it was so early, there was a bit of a conga line. But my hat's off to the people in the front of the conga line. I was probably somewhere in the top 50 while we made our way up Chimney Top, and it was a great pace. And honestly, I was blessed to be in the conga line, because I probably would have went too fast, and it would have made my race even shorter. But it was the perfect speed going up, and I crushed it. Had no fear. Went up Chimney Top. The thing that broke me down the year before, I got on top of it, and I was like, well, yep, the training has paid off. Hours of just climbing up on the treadmill, hours of climbing on the Stairmaster, hours of climbing, running up and down hills in the neighborhood and on the trails, and all the races I'd done for the last year. Yeah, I bent Chimney to my will, right? And I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was nowhere near the challenge that it was the year before. So then I make my way up Chimney, and feeling good, feeling strong, perky, chipper, you might even say, right? Make my way up to Fire Tower, and I know what's coming. We've got Rat Jaw, right? So it's, round 2, right? Here we go. Let's see what you got. I am flying down Rat Jaw, right? Without the slip and slide that it was the year before, and I actually have good dirt to grip. I mean, Rat Jaw is miserable. Don't get me wrong. I don't care which direction you're going up. But it was not the same experience I had in 2022. Manageable experience. So, yeah, I start, here's where things start. This is where my race starts skewing off, right? I started getting cocky and being ridiculous, making poor choices. So because I'm cruising down Rat Jaw, at least compared to the year before, I think the year before it probably took me an hour and a half to get down Rat Jaw, probably, maybe even longer, because I was just fighting not to slide off the mountain. I think I got down Rat Jaw in somewhere around 45 minutes, right? Give or take 5 or 10, but somewhere around 45 minutes. It's hard to tell. And I'm feeling great, feeling so cocky that I decide I'm going to do some trail breaking, right? I get a little antsy because I have been behind people for the first 2 hours of the race, and I kind of want to just do my own thing. And so there's a couple of spots where people form a conga line going down Rat Jaw, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do that. I feel good. So in an attempt to help me and other runners out in the future, this is my mindset anyway, I'm going to trail break. In other words, a path kind of exists where you can go down this path and you don't get eaten up by the briars so much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come alongside runners, and I'm going to smash down the briars and just plow through them, right? That's my plan, because I feel so good, because, it's hour 2, and obviously, the race is practically over, right? I mean, it's only a 13-hour race. Why wouldn't you make ridiculous decisions in the 2.5 hours into a race? So I just start plowing through briars, right, passing people, and people are like, yeah, that's good work. Yeah, knock them down. So they're down for the way up. Yeah, you do it, man. They're like, yeah, if you want to do it, we're not going to stop you, you freaking Momo. And I know I'm getting ripped to pieces, but honestly, when you're in it and the briars, they're biting you, it's not that bad. Afterwards, when you're trying to sleep that night and they start scabbing over, that's pretty miserable. Way more miserable than when you're in it. But a combination of what I actually had the shirt on that you've seen moments ago. It's actually the shirt I wore in the race. I wore it for therapeutic purposes. So I had a short sleeve shirt on. It's just a Lucky Brand shirt that's just nice and light, and I like them. And I'm just plowing through, bleeding everywhere, and I'm like, yeah, warrior time. Yeah, I'm gonna feed Rat Jaw my blood. Take it, eat it, feed it. I'm gonna force my blood into the mouth of Rat Jaw, and you can't stop me. So I get to the bottom of Rat Jaw. I'm gonna eat on the hill, and I'm still feeling so good. However, at some point on the second half going down, this happened, right? So I rolled my right ankle, and it was pretty substantial. But not a race ender at all. I know it looks bad, and it is bad, but I'm so used to rolling my ankles that, I've just learned how to deal with it. And I know that if I don't break my ankle, if I just roll the ankle, I know what's going to happen. It's going to swell up because I've rolled them so much, they just puff up. And if I keep pushing forward on it, if I keep pounding on the ankle, I know two things are going to happen. One, the pain is going to numb up a little bit. So that sharp pain you get when you roll the ankle and it's like, oh my gosh. I know that if I can get on my feet and start moving again, eventually that sharp pain will be dulled. And I know it's going to stiffen up, right? So if I don't keep moving, it's going to get more and more stiff, and it's going to make my my gait and my run be weird. So I just don't do that, right? I roll the ankle, I collapse down, I do some quick little triage of myself, make sure I don't, that it ain't broke. And then I start pushing forward on it again, going down rat jaw. I got to tell you, like, the worst times I've ever rolled my ankle is whenever you're going downhill. It's just all your weight and gravity and the decline of the hill, and then you roll the ankle, and it is just not great times. But it wasn't bad. Definitely nothing that was going to take me out of this race. So, or significantly slow me down. It was going to slow me down, but not enough to start throwing me off. So go through, do the prison, and then I'm on my way to meth and spectacle. And I'm actually so far ahead of my pace that my family, who's going to meet me at the prison, I missed them by like a lot. Like I think I was at that point like 45 minutes ahead of what I was projected. So I'm loving life. Just loving life, right? I got a little limp to me because I rolled my ankle and I'm bleeding all over the place from the briars. And my left heel does have the dull pain from the heel spur. But again, these are all things that I'm used to, right? That's why I chose to run so much back to back, even after races back to back, because I wanted to get accustomed to having those types of pains. And it's working, right? It's working. So had never seen meth or spectacle, and I crushed it. Super successful. One, my battle buddy from the first race, fake news, meth and spectacle, nowhere near as ridiculous as rat jaw. They are extremely difficult, right? Because this race is going to force you to crawl, to bear crawl, hands and knees, baby crawl. There's a lot of ups and downs. You're going to be boot scooting, so you're going to be doing like this. You're going to be doing like this and popping up, and then you just transitioning a lot where you're not, there's going to be long portions of the trail or of the race where you're not going to be just on your feet. Or a lot of trail races, you just stay on your feet, right? Just keep sputtering along. Here, no, it's like doing a CrossFit exercise, just extremely slowly. But while difficult, nowhere near as difficult as rat jaw, in my opinion. So I make it to one of the turnaround. I look at the time, right? Because this time I'm actually aware of my time for as opposed to the first race, and I'm like crushing it, loving it, awesome. Give me some Coke or whatever they had there, some refill my Camelback, and I push back out. And on my way back, and I confuse the two. I don't know which one comes first, meth or spectacle. They butt up to each other, but whichever one is on the back half. The one you go to after the turnaround, things start getting real weird. And this is where things start happening other than my own cockiness, where physically things start going wrong for me. And I never had this type of stuff happen to me before. So the first thing that happened to me, it was actually with my right leg. So I was coming, again, I'm somewhere near the transition of meth and spectacle, and there's a spot where you go around this gate, and I went to step up, like make a step up, and as I landed on my right leg tried to run away from me. It tried to escape. I don't know if it was afraid of rat jaw. I don't know if it was done. It didn't want to play anymore. But what I mean is, when you step, your toes face this way, right? It started turning my whole leg, because the inside of my thigh right here, it started cramping, and it was forcing my leg to turn outside for some reason. Like the contractions were like, and I was like, man, that's weird. That's never happened to me before. why is my leg trying to do a little jig in the middle of my race? Like that's strange, right? Like now I know, the Barkley Fall Classic will find weaknesses in you in your training, so that you're going to be sore, you're going to cramp in places that you just weren't expecting. And so I knew that this was a spot that was weak for me, so I trained for it. But that was the first sign that something was off with my sodium, magnesium, potassium, whatever isium. Something was wrong with my nutrition, and I was starting to cramp, and I was starting to cramp severely, that it was like changing. By the time I got down to the prison, to the hardball, my other leg has started to do it too. And that one really freaked me out, because one, you could be like, well, maybe this one's just tired, maybe I'm overcompensating, or maybe because I rolled this ankle, I'm doing something weird. But when the other one started cramping and turning it this way, now that was just crazy. Now, it didn't last long, 10 or 15 minutes maybe, where my body was trying to, again, my legs were trying to just shoot out at 45-degree angles and abandon me. But that was the first sign things were weird. But I come to the prison, and I got some footage of me linking up with the family there. And I'm in great spirits, right? Because I had lots of salt with me this time. And so I was still conservative. That's the biggest thing. And we'll talk about how I'm going to fix this going forward in year 3. But, I started taking in salt, but I should have taken in like quadruple the amounts of sodium when I was taking. But even going back to the prison, like, again, this was still my race to lose. I was still way ahead of my time. I think at this point I was an hour and a half. And I felt good. More important than how much time I banked for what I did. I had banked a lot of time. I was still moving, right? I mean, I'm about 5 hours into the race now, or somewhere between 4 and 5 hours. And I'm not crushing it, but I'm able to shuffle without a significant amount of pain. And I know, based off the map layout that year, that I'm about to go up Rat Jaw. And after that, it's just ridiculous trail running. No more bear crawling, and I shouldn't have to boot scoot anymore. I'm just going to have to do regular, ridiculous trail climbing. And I know that I can power hike and shuffle and manage that. So this is it. In my mind, I get up Rat Jaw, and it's just normal suffering after that. Not extreme, insane suffering. And I'm excited. So I come back through the tunnel, and immediately go up Gunny Sack, whatever that vertical climb is. Went up it. I was actually surprised how easy it was to get up because of the dry terrain. And I start the death march up. And it's hard to explain, but in the next 30 to 45 minutes, I went from this is my race to lose to I blew up, right? And in this clip here that I'm about to show you, I did say that I'd rather, burn out than fade away. I'd rather burn out than fade away. And that's true. I would rather burn out than fade away. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I'd prefer to have finished the race. But, I don't know how to explain it. My body betrayed me. And as I was doing the death march up, because when you go to Rat Jaw, you're bear crawling, and when you can walk, I mean, progress is by inches. Like, you can't even to take a normal step a lot of times, because the incline is so great, you can't take a normal step. So if you imagine progress being like each step forward is you can step forward about as far as where your heel meets your toe on the opposite foot. I couldn't, at some point while I was trying to get up the first half, I couldn't do, I have this technique I do where I count in my head, slow count, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll count and I'll say, hey man, just do, 60 seconds, whatever, 60 counts, and then you can take a break. And I couldn't do that. So then it was 30, couldn't do that. So then it was 20, and I couldn't do that, and I struggled to get 15 seconds of effort in, right? And when I stopped to rest, I'm like, well, it's okay, you got plenty of time. I'm hey man, you're way ahead. It's fine, right? Your heart's racing, you need to calm down because you're overexerting yourself, right? Just take your time, get up Rat Jaw, and you'll be fine. And as soon as I collapsed into the briar weeds, right? Because you'd be surprised when you're really tired, you just lay down and relax however you can. freaking critters all around you and briars eating in your face, and you're like, I'm too tired. I took in some salt. Should have taken in way more salt because I had these little, I think it was like 50 milligram capsules. Man, I should have taken like 2 salt pills. I should have taken in 500 milligrams. I don't know why I was so conservative with my salt, but that's when the cramps really started during that break, and it was bad. Some of the worst cramps I'd ever had, maybe ever have. Standard places, calves, in my hamstrings, both. I mean, it's in both legs, right? So while you're laying there trying to rest, you're trying to like find a spot and, flex or relax your feet. For me, I cramp more when I relax my feet, right? So if I feel a cramp coming on, I'll try to flex my toes and try to keep it, especially if it's in my calves, I'll try to keep my muscles stretched out so they don't collapse in. And it was not a very relaxing experience. And this also just happened to be about midday where there's no shade where I was at during that first rest period. So I'm just getting cooked. And so I'm like, yeah, you just got to keep going. You got to get through it. So I turned over and I start crawling. And, as bad of a race as I was having, everybody around me was doing the exact same thing. Like every now and then there would be some leapfrogging, but really it was just like, whoever was behind you was looking at you and like, all right, whenever that guy decides to move, I guess I'll try to keep up with them. Like that was like most people's thought process. And then by the time I got up to the little flat area, it was like mass casualties up there. I mean, it was 20, 25 people laid out up there. I'm assuming most of them was coming up, and hell, maybe some of them had been coming down. And I decided I was gonna lay out there, force myself to drink some water, eat whatever little food I had, and then take in more and more salt. And as I laid there, trying to get my body back where it needed to be, I'm looking up at this insane climb that just goes forever, right? It's the stairway to heaven. I mean, truly, you might as well just be looking straight up. It's so steep that a lot of times when I wanted to look at the top, like the base of my skull would be like on the back of my shoulders. Like, oh, that's the top of right jaw. That's still got 60% of this climb to do. So I'm like, all right, just take your time and relax. But it was over. There was nothing I could do. I was too behind on my nutrition to catch up because I told myself to take a 10-minute break, and then that turned into a 20-minute break, and that turned into 30 minutes, and then now I've been laying there for 45 minutes, right? And now I'm starting to take in enough salt that I should have taken in before, and I'm starting to make myself sick, right? Gagging on my salt pills and feel like I'm going to throw up, and that's when right around the 45-minute mark is when this happens. So what you're looking at right there is that's my leg relaxed, and that's that singularity, right, that I was trying to form in my calves. Like my calf muscles were playing Beethoven's symphony, right? It was just, my muscles were just spasming out of control. And anytime I tried to apply any kind of effort, like table up, stand up, even sit up, right? Like even to take that photo, because at that point I'm like, I need to record this for the future, right? I need to show this to a nutritionist or a dietitian or somebody who could tell me like what would have caused that. Is this a sodium thing? Is it a magnesium, potassium? Is it everything? Why is this happening? Because I've never seen it do that before. It was insane. And what's even funnier is I've tried to replicate it. Like I thought maybe it was just like maybe if I wiggle my toes, it'd make my calf tendons do that. Like maybe that stuff's all connected, and it sort of is. But even when I tried to manually replicate that, I couldn't do it. Not even close. It was like my calf was possessed. That's where my race ended. Sorta. They took me up to the top of rat jaw, and I still had to do the 4 to somewhere between 4 and 5 mile walk back down the same route I would have done on the typical race. But now, as I get done the next stretch of the race, I'm going to turn left towards the parking lot. That's not like another half mile or something like that, maybe a mile away. Thank God it was downhill, because if it had been any kind of climbing, it would have, golly, it probably would have taken me 4 hours to go those 4 miles. I just got blindsided by a gap in my own training. I didn't even see it coming, right? So what are we going to do about it? one, I don't have time to add in a ridiculous amount of miles this year for 2023. But I will increase the mileage and I will increase the elevation. It's probably about 15, maybe 20%. So near the end of my training this year, I'm going to be at 60 miles a week consistently for like that last maybe 2 months, 60 miles a week and no less than 5,000 feet of elevation. And then I like to do some more HIIT/cross fit training because I think the transitions from like burpees and lunges and things like that, and transitioning from up and down to down and up and from ass to front and all this other stuff. But right now what I'm doing is anytime I do a long run, I'm ending it with some kind of bear crawl, right? Because I think bear crawling is my secret weapon. I think doing bear crawls is probably the most significant physical change that I want to make to my training. So Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And to the barkers and would-be barkers out there, only this: it's never too early to start training. Thanks for watching. Bear crawl!